Hello and welcome back to the Darth Magog Channel. I'm your host, the Dark Lord of the Apostates, Darth Magog. Today, we have a special video presentation for you, the regular person who works for a living. You already have it tough in the workplace, with overbearing bosses, long hours, tough commutes, poor compensation, and the like. So it can be a little challenging when people come to your workplace to disrupt your work. That's why most businesses prohibit solicitation. But what if you can't quite escape that solicitation? What if it's infiltrated your workplace? And most importantly, what can you do about it? Well, it sounds like you might have a coworker that's involved in a high-control religious group, and if you're watching this video, this coworker of yours is probably one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's talk about everything you need to know about your Jehovah's Witness coworker. We would be honored if you would join us.
We marvel at your word.
Let's start with the basics. Who are Jehovah's Witnesses? Jehovah's Witnesses are a new American religion founded in the 1880s. They're monotheistic and a restorationist sect of Christianity. The good news for you is that most of their general beliefs are going to be the same as your other Christian employees and co-workers, with a few notable exceptions. They're a culturally diverse religion that spans the world over. There are 9 million members that historically skew female and tend to be over 50. Though there are still plenty of teenagers that identify with the group, should you have any minor children as employees or co-workers.
We marvel at your word.
Since Jehovah's Witnesses are a mostly Christian religion, they believe in the Abrahamic God of the Bible, though instead of calling him Father God, they use a rough translation of his original Hebrew name of Yahweh, affectionately referring to him as Jehovah God. Contrary to popular belief, they also believe in the Bible itself, call Jesus Christ their Lord and Savior, and believe in heaven. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses do believe a little differently than your average Christian. For one, they don't believe in souls, a formal afterlife, or hellfire. They don't participate in most holiday celebrations like Christmas, Halloween, and Easter. You won't catch them saluting a flag, or marching in military parades, or even voting in local elections. And a few dozen other quirks and intricacies that most of your Christian co-workers wouldn't usually bat an eye at.
No thanks, I'm a Jehovah's Witness and I don't celebrate birthdays.
Jehovah's Witnesses wear these differences as a badge of courage, as they believe that they practice what they call pure worship, and see any other religion as false, especially other sects of Christianity. They refer to those sects as Christendom with one another, though they typically keep that opinion to themselves around new people. So they won't outright say that they think less of your religion compared to theirs, but just know that they have, let's say, opinions.
We marvel at your word.
Jehovah's Witnesses usually show up in two work environments: small businesses in large corporate settings. Well, sort of. We'll break that down a little further. Jehovah's Witnesses end up in small businesses frequently, especially those of their own design, usually washing windows for some inexplicable reason, though construction and other trades are also common picks. That's because those career paths are always in demand and largely don't require advanced degrees. Jehovah's Witnesses, as a majority, are unlikely to hold advanced degrees. In fact, up until a very recent governing body update, Jehovah's Witnesses were discouraged from even attending college or university. It's unlikely that you'll end up working in a Jehovah's Witness-owned business, as Jehovah's Witnesses tend to lean towards hiring other witnesses, as they know they'll hold similar values. It's also convenient for all Jehovah's Witnesses, as everyone involved will adjust their schedules to ensure that religious commitments are honored, usually in the form of field service, where Jehovah's Witnesses voluntarily go door to door preaching to their neighbors, or to Jehovah's Witness meetings, twice weekly religious services held in their place of worship called the Kingdom Hall. Also, as a side effect of not holding degrees, Jehovah's Witnesses tend to work in large corporations in entry-level positions. Data entry, clerks, secretaries, and help desk were all very popular when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and a substantial portion of my congregation also worked in food service or retail, myself included at the time. So, if you work for a large company and you find a Jehovah's Witness, they'll either be a co-worker or a direct report, unless your company has hired a smaller Jehovah's Witness-run company as a subcontractor or something like that.
We marvel at your word.
Now, it's hard to discuss any group of people without potentially falling into harmful stereotypes. Luckily, Jehovah's Witnesses do have a predetermined set of behaviors that they're obligated to follow. In Jehovah's Witness culture, this is called the new personality. This means behaving in a way that's always in congress with the thinking of their God, Jehovah. This requires them to follow his commandments to a T, and also to manifest what they call the fruitage of the Spirit, being patient, mild, disciplined, and the like. In practice, this is basically just the hive mind of Jehovah's Witnesses, acting in a generally non-offensive manner in concert with all other Jehovah's Witnesses. So much so that, with the very rare exception of congregation-specific sermons, all Kingdom Halls are supposed to present the same material to their congregations around the world every week. Meaning, if you go to a Jehovah's Witness meeting in Madrid where they're discussing the importance of Noah, and then immediately teleport to Tokyo, that Jehovah's Witness meeting will also be about the importance of Noah. Then, the next week, if the Japanese Kingdom Hall is discussing the tragedy of Job, so will the Spanish Kingdom Hall, and the Australian Kingdom Hall, and the Ugandan Kingdom Hall, and even the Canadian Kingdom Hall, if that all makes sense. Now that you know all that, here are the behaviors you can expect from any Jehovah's Witness co-worker that's actively putting on the new personality, as they call it. For one, Jehovah's Witnesses will not participate in any holiday celebrations at work. Jehovah's Witnesses are forbidden from celebrating most major religious and civic holidays like Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and even Easter. Additionally, under the same logic, they refuse to participate in birthday celebrations on principle, whether it's their own or that of a co-worker's. So don't expect them to show up to the break room while you're singing happy birthday. This isn't an issue in most workplaces in westernized countries, as the participation is usually optional, and many companies don't have holiday parties at all. Though, if your company's closed for a Martin Luther King Jr. Day or President's Day, they'll enjoy the day off regardless. On the subject of days off, Jehovah's Witnesses often require a certain schedule be kept so they can balance their work with worship. At the time of this recording, Jehovah's Witnesses have 2 weekly meetings they attend at their Kingdom Hall. The hour-and-a-half public talk and watchtower study meeting, which is usually held on a weekend, and the 2-hour Christian life and ministry meeting, which is usually held during the week. Attendance is mandatory as demanded by their God Jehovah and their religious leaders, the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. In lieu of holidays, Jehovah's Witnesses have special meetings called conventions. These are large gatherings that happen several times a year and range from 1 to 3 days, often again on the weekends. so be prepared for PTO requests during the convention seasons. But the granddaddy of them all is the memorial of Christ's death, held on what usually coincides with Good Friday. Most of these meetings serve two purposes. One is to deepen the faith and community bonds of Jehovah's Witnesses themselves, and two is to improve their public speaking and confidence when preaching their religion to others. And since we're on the subject, let's address the elephant in the room. Jehovah's Witnesses in the workplace tend to make no secret of who they are, and not just in the typical way someone may say, "Oh, I wear hijab because I am Muslim," or "I'll pass on the shrimp, I'm Jewish," or even, "I can't that day, I'm volunteering at my church." No, Jehovah's Witnesses have a habit of preaching at work. Jehovah's Witnesses are encouraged to work what's called their personal territory. Territory, in Jehovah's Witness parlance, usually means an area outlined to be preached within. Personal territories are areas that Jehovah's Witnesses find themselves in on a regular basis that other witnesses might not have access to, such as a neighborhood, apartment building, school, or even the workplace. This is a dicey one, as many workplaces and localities prohibit direct preaching within the workplace, though Jehovah's Witnesses often turn their preaching into a conversation to avoid the directness of instructing their co-workers to change religions. If you're working with a Jehovah's Witness and you have a conversation, especially about a problem, you can expect an invitation to the Kingdom Hall sooner or later. And even though you can expect Jehovah's Witnesses to do all these things at work, you can expect them to refuse to do a number of things as well. Anything that Jehovah's Witnesses deem against their religion won't be something they do at work. In addition to their rejection of holiday celebrations, you can't count on Jehovah's Witnesses to carry a weapon should you work in such a facility. You probably can't expect them to perform a blood transfusion, as that's frowned upon in the religion. And if you have a contract with another religious institution, such as a church or a mosque, don't expect a Jehovah's Witness to attend those jobs. They are forbidden from going into another place of worship. Beyond that, just remember that work is a very secondary thing to Jehovah's Witnesses. While the vast majority of us do have to work to live, Jehovah's Witnesses use several lines of reasoning to keep their work secondary. One is that you can't slave for two masters. Slaving, in this case, means the dedication of one's life to something, so Jehovah's Witnesses are discouraged from making sacrifices to get ahead at work, especially since they believe that they live in the last days of the end, which means they firmly expect the end of the world in the not-too-distant future, and believe that any achievements unrelated to their religion are temporary. They also believe in keeping their eyes simple. In other words, living a relatively minimalist lifestyle, low cost and maintenance, so that they can focus more time in their worship, working just enough to cover day-to-day expenses, usually with little to no focus on long-term planning.
We marvel at your word.
So, now that you know what Jehovah's Witnesses do at work, well, aside from working that is, you may have one more question. Why are they like this? Failing to follow their doctrine of new personality has negative consequences for Jehovah's Witnesses. When a witness doesn't follow the rules of their religion or sins in the eyes of the community, they're open to scrutiny. The ultimate consequence is being removed from the congregation, a process that used to be called disfellowshipping. I've done a video on this before that I'll gladly link in the corner of the screen. But the short of it is that Jehovah's Witnesses that break the rules and get kicked out of their religion are ostracized by all other Jehovah's Witnesses in their community. And witnesses tend to make up their entire community due to another religious teaching called good and bad association, where a witness will decline to associate with anyone who isn't advancing their relationship with their God or the Jehovah's Witness community, even if they have good traits. So, if for no other reason, Jehovah's Witnesses behave the way they do to avoid punishment in their religion. But wait a minute, Darth, you may say. I have a Jehovah's Witness co-worker, and they seem to be a good friend, or at least a good person. What's the deal there? Well, Jehovah's Witnesses are human beings too, so there's a distinct possibility that they genuinely like you as a person. But be warned, if they firmly believe in their religion, they may see you as an honest-hearted one, or one of the people that they're meant to convert to their religion. They can do this by taking a genuine interest in your life, but using every opportunity to turn your conversations towards their worship. You'll get endless invitations to their Kingdom Home meetings. They'll want to share scriptures with you, and rarely they may even try to initiate one of their signature Bible studies with you, all in an attempt to, ultimately, make you one of Jehovah's Witnesses too. That's because, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, the only way for you to be safe and be their friend forever is to ensure that you're one of them. Otherwise, you're liable to be destroyed in the pending doomsday that Jehovah's Witnesses call Armageddon. Better known in mainstream Christian religion as the Apocalypse, Armageddon is the final battle between cosmic forces of good and evil, where Jehovah God, Jesus, and their angels will destroy not only Satan and his demons, but also all world governments and anyone else that they deem wicked, including any man, woman, or child who isn't one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Because Jehovah's Witnesses live in a binary, any individual who isn't with Jehovah is against him in his struggle for sovereignty of the universe, even if they don't want to play the universal game of chess. Of course, we'll have to discuss that in a future guide, but for now, those are the main reasons your Jehovah's Witness co-worker has made it their personal mission to preach to you or otherwise share their faith when they can.
We marvel at your word.
As much as I hate to do it, I'll paraphrase the Watchtower in saying that customs and laws vary. There are a few things you can do in the workplace to free yourself of Jehovah's Witness indoctrination. Most of the regular viewers on my channel will likely be adults that are capable of just saying, "Hey, cheers mate, but it's not my bag, okay?" But for the younger or perhaps more socially anxious among you, here are a few suggestions. Number 1, learn your local laws. While most of the world does indeed have provisions for religious freedom, some are more free than others. So it's good to know what constitutes discrimination and also what constitutes harassment. For example, in the United States, you can't fire someone based on their religion, nor can you force other religious practices on them, limit their roles, punish them for religious accommodation, or otherwise make their working experience uncomfortable beyond what's normal for the role. So yes, you can make a Jehovah's Witness scrub toilets at their job, but only if that's in their job description. But the inverse also applies. A Jehovah's Witness can't discriminate against you based on your religion or even lack thereof. Nor can they make you uncomfortable by subjecting you to unwanted religious propaganda. And even if you are interested, keep in mind, you can withdraw that consent anytime. Number 2, stay calm and collected through the whole conversation. Even if you don't have it in you to tell them off up front, you can always take your time and compose an email later. I strongly recommend having someone read it over before you send it to ensure inflammatory language isn't used. Again, I hate to quote Jehovah's Witnesses, but there's a threefold reason for doing this. The primary one is to protect you from retaliation. Should you accidentally say something harsh, you could very well be in trouble for religious discrimination yourself, so avoid using blanket statements. The secondary reason is the Jehovah's Witness persecution complex. Jehovah's Witnesses have made it very clear in their literature that they believe persecution is coming their way, considering this to be a mark of the true religion. Now, to be perfectly fair, Jehovah's Witnesses are indeed persecuted harshly in some countries, sometimes violently. But pound for pound, the evils they face are no more evil than the evils experienced by other religious minorities. Regardless, you don't want to play into the persecution, lest they use you as an example to double down on their faith. And reason number 3 to stay calm is mostly for me. I would love to see Jehovah's Witnesses use your calm and friendly demeanor as a deconstruction point. Jehovah's Witnesses are taught from the day we are born that the world belongs to our ancient enemy, Satan the devil, and that all the people in it are his puppets, and that only our God Jehovah and his Son Jesus Christ can protect us from it. But when a witness sees that there's nothing to be protected from, it can make them question. This isn't a surefire thing, as Jehovah's Witnesses can also see your friendliness as Jehovah's protection, but it's something that helped me realize that the world isn't as black and white as the JWs think it is, helping me escape from the group. The third and perhaps most important thing you can do is do everything by the book. Look over your company's harassment policies, understand thresholds, and follow steps. A simple conversation of, "Hi JW coworker, I appreciate you and what your culture brings to the table, but I'm not interested in adopting it personally," can be enough. And if it isn't, then appropriate escalation is in order. No real reason to jump to a lawsuit. Instead, as exhausting as it is, I request that you go through all channels, be it a direct supervisor, a manager, an HR director, or whatever your company needs to do to resolve the issue peacefully. I only ask this because, as you know, based on my opening theme, I was a Jehovah's Witness too. So I still hold a lot of empathy for Jehovah's Witnesses, mostly because a lot of our behavior is coerced by our religious leaders, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, and their governing body. Jehovah's Witnesses are constantly indoctrinated via videos, books, magazines, and even music to obey every instruction that the Watchtower forces down their throats. And for all intents and purposes, failing to follow instructions could cost the witnesses their homes, families, or even their lives. Their religion, which should bring comfort, charity, and community, is a constant source of fear, obligation, and guilt. And while this may be a mild annoyance to you, this is how Jehovah's Witnesses are forced to live. Knowing from first-hand experience that they have no choice is why I desperately call for empathy.
We marvel at your word.
And that's the end of our guide on how to deal with your Jehovah's Witness co-worker. I will leave you with a few parting shots. Keep in mind, despite their claim of Christian unity, Jehovah's Witnesses are still individuals living on a gradient instead of a binary, meaning that each one is their own person and may act slightly differently, especially if they're not entirely convinced of the doctrine. If you'd like more information on Jehovah's Witnesses that aren't quite with it, I advise you to check out everything you need to know about your Jehovah's Witness friend in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Also keep in mind, a few of these behaviors may apply to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses as well. Our in-house childcare expert, Clone Commander 5s, has commented on my binary thinking more than once, so even if an ex-Jehovah's Witness is deconstructing, well, remember that the bad behaviors aren't broken overnight, but we are trying. Otherwise, just do what you have to do. A lot of times, work kinda sucks, and someone making it tougher on you is a drag. But by keeping your boundaries firm while maintaining genuine kindness, you can get through any challenge presented to you by your coworkers and high control groups. That's all I have for you today, XJW agents, but what do you think? Did I explain what to expect from and how to deal with your Jehovah's Witness coworkers effectively? Or do you have some tips to help out your fellow agents that I missed? Whatever your thoughts may be, I'd love to read them in the comments down below. And it would be an honor if you would join us as a subscriber for future videos. Otherwise, just remember, agents, the elders may be watching you, but Darth Magog is watching the Watchtower.